Hello, this is William Clark for the Last Stand podcast, and this is number 13 in the series. I'm moving up the line here. Today, I want to talk to you about a book, Bristol, that I wrote. Very strange book. But before I do that, I'm going to kind of set the table about this topic. This book is about high strangeness happening in a certain town. It's fiction, of course, but, you'll get the idea when I get going on it. First of all, I want to talk about my dad, my father. My father was a motorcycle enthusiast when he was young, and his first bike was an AJS 500cc back in the late 40s, early 50s. He's always been around motorcycles, always had motorcycles. I have two brothers, both younger. And all three of us were raised around motorcycles, specifically dirt bikes and dirt bike racing. My father got me into motorcycle riding early. I was about 12. And we lived on a radar site up in Northern California, a place called Point Arena, California. It's Northern California, Ukiah, Boonville, up in there. Beautiful, beautiful area, but a very desolate radar site where there was about 30 families. And what my father did is he bought two Honda Trail 90s back in those days. Trail 90, remember those Trail 90s? Indestructible little red and yellow things? Anyway, I had one of those, and I would ride that Trail 90 every day after school out on the trails up in the mountains around this radar site. Beautiful place to ride. Logging roads forever. And I had kind of an interesting, funny story is that because, we didn't have a lot of money, I had an old helmet, and I was able to buy a clear face shield, one of those clear snap-on face shields that go over it. Well, I couldn't afford a full-face helmet. So one day I just took masking tape in a little square, and then I painted the rest of the face shield black to make it look like I had a full-face helmet on. And I'd ride that Honda 90 like I was Kenny Roberts. Point is, I learned to ride dirt bikes on that Trail 90. I got really good with it. In fact, I rode the axles right off of it. Well, as things progressed, I got better and better and better. And my little brother, David, and I won't mention where he's at, but he started riding too, and we started racing. Short track, half mile. My little brother, David, was always better than me. I never admitted it, but he was a better rider than I was. But that's another story for another time. My point is high strangeness and how it had kind of crept into my relationship with my father. Through the years, we were close but not close. Motorcycles brought us together, but when we weren't riding motorcycles together, we kind of got apart. I went through a phase in my stupid teenage years when I didn't want to cut my hair. Go figure. I was 17, 18 years old and didn't want to cut my hair. My father said, well, if you don't want to get your hair cut, you don't have to live here. I ended up moving out. I ended up staying with some friends for about 2 months and then got tired of that, went back home, got a haircut, and everything was cool. My point is, we had a strange relationship. But when we were together on motorcycle riding, racing, going to the desert, going to races, we bonded. And in all that time with my father, I never saw him afraid of anything when he talked about things, or when he even brought up an idea of being afraid of something, fear. Never saw it. Except this one time, we were riding our Honda 90s on those logging roads up in Point Arena, way up in the mountains. I remember it was a cool early fall afternoon. about 3 o'clock. Excuse me. I'm still fighting allergies here in Michigan, but I'll get through it. Overcast skies, cool temperatures, and we're riding these logging roads side by side, just having a great time. We had packed a lunch, and so we were going to stop along the road there and have some lunch and just enjoy the day because we were riding together. And the logging road that we were on had been graded right down past the dirt. And so on each side of the road was this soft dirt berm all the way along it for miles. They had taken a road grader and graded it, and that curved blade had pushed a berm on both sides of the road all the way down for miles. And we're riding on soft dirt with this soft berm on each side. After about 5 to 7 miles of this, we pulled off on a little clearing along this beside the road there, pulled off, parked the bikes, and we started having our lunch. I'll never forget, I had a ham and cheese sandwich, and the reason I was thinking about ham and cheese is that we weren't rich, and so having cheese on your sandwich, like having lettuce on your sandwich, was a big deal. I had a ham and cheese. I remember forget a Swiss cheese sandwich. It was wonderful. And I'm sitting there with my dad, and my dad at the time was still a smoker. My little brothers don't remember this, but my dad used to smoke quite a bit. He used to smoke a lot. It was not uncommon to see him with a cigarette in his hands all the time smoking. On this particular day, I'm eating my ham and cheese, enjoying the scenery and enjoying the ride, and we're having a good time. And my dad stops talking. Just stopped talking. And he turns and he looks up the road, and he turns and looks at me, and he turns and looks back down the other side of the road, and he stands up real slow. Something's going on. So I go, Dad, are everything okay? And he just holds his hand with a cigarette out, does that. Like, don't talk. And he puts it down by his side, and he stands up and he walks up past where our bikes were parked, and he's looking at the ground. Okay? Maybe we lost a part or something. And then he walks past me, past the bikes, and looks on the other side. And then he walks back up to me and he goes, take a look. I stand up and look, and not 5 feet away from the front wheel of my motorcycle on this big soft berm where we hadn't walked or stood was a huge footprint. Huge, maybe 1.5 feet, maybe long and about that wide, 8 inches wide, huge footprint. And I look back across the road, and there's one in the middle of the soft dirt and another one on that far berm. And another one can be seen up this bank that disappears into the woods. Huge footprints. Now, this is in the late 60s. And for me, I had never heard of Sasquatch or Bigfoot or cryptids or anything. I'm 12 years old, 13 years old, and this is in the late 60s. I don't know what's going on. But as I found out later in life, this area we were in is considered Bigfoot country, Northern California. Anyway, I see the footprint there, and I look down the road, and there is another one on the other side of the berm, and there's another one going off into the woods. I look at my father, because I still don't comprehend what's going on here. I just see big footprints. He is as pale as a sheet. Excuse me. He inhales a cigarette real hard, and he throws it. He says, we got to leave right now. I go, I'm just finishing my sandwich. He says, throw it away. Wasting food in my father's household? Unheard of. He goes, throw it away. Let's go. Okay, I toss it. We get our jackets on. I put my helmet on. By the time I get my helmet on and fastened, my father is dressed, helmet on, gloves on. He's turned his bike around. He's getting ready to go back up the road. That's how fast we're trying to get out of there. He is freaked out by these footprints. I never understood still what was going through his mind, but we had to get out of there. He turns up the road. He gets on that Trail 90 and he's booking it back up the road. I get mine on. I get mine finally started. I come up and I go. My father was a very capable motorcycle rider. And I found out how good he was by just trying to keep up with him as we made it back up those roads and back towards the base. He was flying. It's the fastest I've ever gone on my Honda 90 on those fire roads, just trying to keep up with him. We got back to the house, and he's not talking. We parked the bikes. We had big tarps we put over the top of the tarps, and he walks into the house. As he's walking towards the house, he turns to me and he says, "Don't say anything to your mother." And I go, "What would I say?" He goes, "You heard me. Don't say anything to your mother." Years would go by before I brought this up to my father again. And when I did, my mom and dad had moved to Montana. They moved up to Sula, Montana, retired. And my dad was working in his horseshoe shop where he made ornamental horseshoe doodads, wine racks and coat racks and stuff. And I was visiting from California one day. And I walked past his shop door and parked under a tarpaulin by his door was a yellow Honda 90. Very similar to the same kind we had years ago back in Point Arena. And I remembered the footprints. I remembered how he acted that day, how he reacted by seeing him. I walked into the shop, and he's working on his horseshoes. He's painting and brushing and doing all those things. I said, "Hey, Dad, do you remember that day in Point Arena when you were really bothered by those footprints?" He put his brush down. He looked at me and he goes, "You remember that, huh?" I go, "Yeah, I remember that. It was quite a day. You were kind of different." He kind of smiled without humor, but just kind of a smile. And he goes, "I just knew that we needed to get out of there as fast as we could." I go, "Well, what freaked you out so bad?" He said, "Well, I don't want to talk about it, but we just needed to get out of there." And then he went back to his work and started brushing and stuff. And he looked at me like, "Are we done?" I go, "I guess we are." We never talked about it again. It's funny that I remember back thinking that I saw a vulnerability in my father that day. Fear. Real fear. The kind of fear I'd never seen in a man before, especially an authority figure like my dad. My gosh. So, I've always been interested in, as an adult, the paranormal, supernatural, UFO subject. I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody who's interested. And I wanted to somehow encapsulate that feeling my father had in a character, in a story, and use it like I use all the experiences in my life that I channel into my stories, into my books. I believe God has given me a great gift. And I'm not trying to be pretentious to say I'm an F. Scott Fitzgerald, but he's given me the ability to write books and to tell stories and put them down in form. So I channeled that feeling of that day. I thought about it, and I worked on it, and I put it into the book Bristol. It's about UFOs, a UFO in a town near South Haven, Michigan. Fictionalized characters, of course. But it's a study into that old saying, be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. That happens in Bristol. Be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. In writing this book, I went back to those days riding those fire roads with my dad, with my father. And the memories are bittersweet. In those days when I was learning with my father and he was teaching me how to ride, we were never closer. And I long for those days. Now, my father has long passed. He died almost 7 years ago. And I miss him every day. I wish I could talk to him. I wish I could see him and tell him, hey, look what I can do now. He'd get a laugh out of it. He'd get a chuckle out of that. Because, I never did anything remotely academic my entire time growing up under his roof. I was chasing girls. I was wanting a new motorcycle. I was into other things, but not writing books. And I certainly was not a good student in school. I was a stunningly C average student. If I got a B on any paperwork, it was you had to call and see if hell froze over. My point is that when I wrote this book, Bristol, I got very nostalgic in my heart for that time with my dad riding motorcycles in Northern California. That feeling of doing something with somebody you care for, who cares for you, doing something together. I had a lot of that emphasis in heart and in spirit when I wrote Bristol. It's a very special book for me. I really enjoyed writing it. And there's a companion book to this called Eloquin that I'll show you in a future video. This is a 2-book series. This is Bristol, and then there's Eloquin. And I'll talk about that in the future. But I wanted to share with you something about my dad, of the supernatural, that he did experience, that I was there with him. Did I see a Bigfoot? No. Did I see the tracks? Better believe it. And come to find out years later, this has all been documented as Sasquatch Bigfoot country. Amazing. I shared it with my father. It was an experience. I've never forgotten it. And I miss my father greatly. But he gave me that experience. And I thank God for that. This is kind of a short video, but I just wanted to bring that up, and I wanted to talk about the book Bristol. It's a very good story. You'd like it. It's on Amazon Books. And by the way, guys, I want to thank you so much for all the thumbs up and the likes. I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Well, it's going to be up for me today. The weather is getting a little cooler here in Michigan. Fall's on the way. You can feel it. I can see it in the sunlight. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for helping me out with this and helping me get this meager little studio podcast off the ground. This is Bill Clark with the Last Stand podcast. And I always say, if you folks can't be safe out there, be sanitary. Thanks again, guys. Clark out.